Thank you. Thank you. It's always great when you're undefeated. So thanks so much for coming out today, and I hope filling this luncheon is a sign of things to come in terms of filling the stadium, okay? Because that is the most important thing you can do to help bring in good classes, is to have excitement, to have a passionate fan base, and there's no greater reflection of that than how well you fill your stadium. So I hope before you leave today, you all get season tickets, you buy them for 80 of your closest friends, and we have that thing packed all year next year. It's been a very exciting 6 weeks. And I said in my opening press conference, this Wake Forest was a place that I really wanted to be. This was a job that I coveted. I think there's very few places in the country that you can really do things the right way. What we have is very unique. We play big-time football in a great conference. We're one of the country's academic elite schools, and we're one of very few that offer big-time football with that. And now, even been here for 6 weeks, I think it's even more special than that, that we're the only place in the country that can give the type of individual attention to student athletes. And I was certainly optimistic when they took the job after recruiting for the past 6 weeks. I'm even more excited and optimistic about what we're going to be able to do here. We can get really, really good football players at Wake Forest. You know, we don't have to settle. We beat good schools in recruiting. For the right player, the right student athlete, this is the best place in the country for a lot of those young men. And it's not always going to be that we stay within 3 hours. We'll go anywhere in the country for a good player. In some of these towns I've never heard of before. Okay, but I can tell you where the Courtyard Inn is there. We know where the airport is there now, and we know where to get a good bowl of soup. But overall, we're pleased with the class. Certainly, we had to hit the ground running. There was a lot of time to make up in terms of relationships. And before I introduce the class here, I guess this was our approach: is we wanted to sign an entire football team. We wanted to sign one player at each position that we felt fit our scheme, offensively, defensively, and in the kicking game. And I think when you look at the class, there's one person at each position. You know, we're a 4-2-5 on defense. And if you look at the class, we signed 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, 3 safeties, 2 corners. So we signed a whole freshman football team. We did the same thing on offense. We doubled up in depth at positions of need. Quarterback and running back, we doubled down. But on offense, you see 2 quarterbacks, 2 tailbacks. We're primarily based as a 3-receiver personnel group, although we'll do a lot of 2 tight end stuff. So we got 3 receivers, we got 5 O-linemen. And then we signed 1 kicker who's also a punter. And the reason we did that is, you know, a lot of the things you learn as a head coach, you learn the hard way. And at another school I was at, I showed up day 1 in the job, and one of the coaches there said, you know what, you don't need to recruit any offensive linemen. We had an unbelievable year last year recruiting offensive linemen. We got 5 guys that are all steely-eyed killers, great kids, and they're all going to be All-Americans. Well, a year later, our evaluation was they all stunk. So the next year, that year, we didn't recruit any offensive linemen. So 2 years later, we had no O-linemen. So, you know, we're going to trust our evaluation on these players, and we feel very good about the group we signed. You know, the second challenge is recruiting is about relationships. The relationship you form with the individual recruit, their family, their high school coach, their mentors, their guidance counselor, their teachers. The recruiting process starts so early now. I mean, we are actively recruiting 10th graders as we speak. So it was very difficult to recruit a player that was committed to another school that none of the relationships changed. So if a player was committed to a school that they had the same head coach, the same coordinator, the same recruiting coach, the same position coach, it was hard. So other than trying to secure the commitments we had, our approach was we're going to aggressively go after players that we had evaluated highly, that the relationships changed, that the head coach left, the coordinator left, the position coach left. And when we had those opportunities, we attacked. In some cases, they kept their commitment. but in other cases, they wanted to reopen their recruiting process. And a lot of our, I think, really good players we signed, we were able to get them. They were committed to other good schools. And when we weren't behind on the relationship aspect of things, it really helped us. And when I was on the road, I don't know people who follow Twitter, but we were so excited. We had a 12-hour period there that we flipped 3 players, all from BCS schools, all from highly ranked programs. And my thing was, if they visit, they will come. And we had to have 26 players visit to get 21 commitments since we were here. So this is a beautiful school. If we can just get people to visit, we have an unbelievable sell here. So we're very encouraged about what we're able to do. Recruiting is certainly a team effort. And as the head coach, I get up here and introduce them. And I'm a very small part of this equation. You know, one thing that's been great at Wake Forest is how involved the faculty get. I think when you sell that you're the smallest school in the BCS or the old BCS, people say that's a disadvantage. I think it's the greatest advantage we have. We can give more individual attention to student athletes than any school in the country. And when you have faculty members that are committed to help and share that vision, it is awesome. We had faculty members give up Saturdays, give up Sundays, take individual recruits on 2-hour tours and spend time with them and promise parents that they would be their advisor if they came here. And I want to recognize the faculty members that helped us in the recruiting process that are here. If they could please stand up, and if you could hold your applause to the end. But Pete Brubaker. Kenny, you're already standing up. I told Kenny I almost hit him in the car the other day when he was running across the highway to the basketball game. Charles Lanku, see here? Okay, John Llewellyn and Paul Paca. I saw Paul earlier. So these guys were big-time difference makers for us in recruiting, and we are very grateful for everything that you did. Thanks so much. You know, the one thing we tell recruits is that we're going to look after their development, not just as a football player, but their academic development, their social development, and also their spiritual development. And to have our chaplain, Joe Haynes, to be there as soon as a recruit comes to Wake Forest, we have dinner in the Deacon Tower, and one of the very first people they get to meet is Joe Haynes. And Joe, and a lot of times his wife, gave up every Friday night to meet with our recruits and let them know that spiritual aspect of their life is something that we care about at Wake Forest as well. So Joe, thanks so much. And then I also want to recognize Grant Minix down at the Marriott and the Embassy Suites. This was nuts. We had this guy coming, then he wasn't coming. We had this guy coming, and it's very important that when the parents get here that all the accommodations are set and they're good. And everything we do here at Wake Forest is first class, is certainly the way that you take care of our recruits and their families, Grant. So we're grateful for what you do too. Thank you. And then lastly, there were a number of donors. Again, we were behind. We had to see a lot of players in a hurry. So since we got here, there wasn't one day that any of our coaches could be on the road that we weren't on the road. And at times we had to see 3, 4 recruits a day in multiple locations, and that never could have been done. We had some donors, very generous donors, allow us to use their planes to see these players. And there's 3 or 4 examples that if we didn't have their planes, we would have lost recruits. And I want to thank the Budd family, John Fox, David Griffin, and Don Leonard, who were all very generous in donating their planes so that we could sign the class we did. So thanks so much to those people. Okay, what I'd like to do now is I first want to introduce our coaching staff. And then after I introduce them, I'm going to show you the video of all the incoming recruits. In some cases, I will have the assistant coach, who is the primary recruiter, get up and talk about them a little bit so you have an opportunity to meet them. But first off, I want to introduce our defensive staff. And again, if you could hold your applause to the end. I imagine some of you have work and we'd like to get you there by 3 o'clock. I'm kidding. Our defensive staff, our defensive coordinator is Mike Elko. He'll also coach our safeties. Mike came from Bowling Green, where we had a top 10 defense the last 2 years in a row. Our linebacker coach, Wake Forest great, Warren Beelan. And really excited Warren stayed with us. Derek Jackson is going to remain as our secondary coach. And Dave Cohen is one of my best friends in the profession. We've been known each other 25 years. We were in each other's wedding. And again, just a wonderful, a great friend, and has been there for me for 25 years, and really excited he came. Our offensive staff, Warren Ruggiero is our offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. Warren has been at Bowling Green the past 5 years and a very creative play caller. John Hunter is our running backs coach. John, again, also came from Bowling Green. Our new offensive line coach is Nick Tabaka, and he came from Ball State, where I thought he had one of the best coached offensive lines in the conference the last couple of years. Our special teams coordinator and tight ends coach is Adam Shire. And one of the things we took great pride at Bowling Green is that we were we were the only staff in our conference and one of the very few staffs in the country that had the same head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator 5 years in a row. So we know each other too well, but there's great continuity and consistency in what we teach, and I think that's one of the reasons that our program incrementally got better every year. And finally, my assistant head coach and really one of my mentors in the profession, Kevin Higgins, who will coach our wide receivers. So thanks to them. And again, we have a recruiting office, an operations staff. Certainly, Bill Faircloth has decided to stay with us. He knows every skeleton in the building, and he's helped me very early avoid a lot of mistakes. Which is neat. I mean, anybody who's a football fan has seen the movie Brian's Song, and to talk to Coach Fair that knew Brian Piccolo personally and tell stories of him and the connections with the family. That type of oral history here is invaluable as we build the program, because we have an exciting future, but we have a very proud past. And certainly Coach Fair is a major connection with the former players here, and again, really thrilled that he's staying. And then if the GAs and the support staff, if you guys could stand up and just be recognized. They do a lot of work behind the scenes, so they all hang out together. And then finally, last but certainly not least, we involve our families in the recruiting process, so our wives are actively involved. I think we have over 30 children on our staff. At times recruiting can look like romper room. And I certainly want to thank my head coach, my wife, Catherine. And I also want to recognize Yolanda Beelan and Renee Jackson, who were at a lot of the recruiting dinners and got actively involved in helping convince these young men that Wake Forest was the best place for them, for their future. So Renee and Yolanda, thanks so much. All right, let's take a look at the tape, and we'll talk about the recruits. And if I just roll it, I'll kind of talk through it. Every now and then I'm going to ask you to pause it, so there's a little recruiting story. But go ahead. Ryan Anderson is from North Carolina. He did a prep school year.
Unschooled Princeton, Raleigh, North Carolina, left tackle. Check out my highlight tape from when I was in Jersey.
Okay, and Ryan had been already committed here. He's a mid-year enrollee. He's going to probably play offensive guard for us. And little history, his grandfather was Dick Anderson, who used to be the head coach at Rutgers, and Joe Paterno's longtime assistant coach. So again, Ryan had already been committed and enrolled a couple of weeks after we got here. I'm going to have Coach Higgins introduce Jalen Barber.
Jalen Barber is one of our 3 wide receivers that we're bringing in. He's from Monroe High School, right outside of Charlotte. And one of our goals is to bring in as many North Carolina recruits every year that we possibly can. We're already working on our juniors, our sophomores, and that will always be a priority of ours. Jalen, outstanding receiver. Outstanding receiver. He was named for All-State first team his sophomore year. Has been a 3-time All-County player. He's a guy that is rated the top wide receiver in the state of North Carolina. A couple of people had him that way as well. Plays football, plays basketball, also runs track. We also love getting guys that play more than one sport. We like those competitors. He also is captain of his high school team. You can hear that from a lot of guys as well. As many captains that we can bring in the program, the more successful we'll be. We're excited about this guy. He'll be a slot catching a lot of balls underneath for us. Jalen Barber, Monroe High School, North Carolina.
I'm Jalen Barber from Monroe High School, from Monroe, North Carolina. I play wide receiver.
Adam Centers, I don't need to be on the screen. Thank you. It's bad enough they're looking at me. I don't need to see myself on TV. Thanks for switching that back. Adam Centers from Coppell High School in Coppell, Texas. When I got hired here and we started recruiting, coach told me we needed a kicker, or we needed to go out and find the best kicker you could find. So I watched some film from kickers from all over the country, and I decided on a group of 5, and I said, Coach, I got my top 5 kickers. You want to sit down and, because we're getting late in recruiting here, you want to sit down with me and watch the film? And he said, no, Adam, I want you to see them all kick live. And you got 1 week to do it. So I literally observed 5 kickers in 5 different cities in the country in a 4-day period. So talk about all the travel we went through. And scheduled Adam last because he was our top guy going in. So I wanted to evaluate everybody else leading up to his visit. And, it was a no-brainer at that point. He's a phenomenal kicker, ranked as the number 2 kicker by Kohl's Kicking Service, number 3 kicker by ESPN. And when you watch his film, it's with that position, it's pretty black and white. So when you watch his film, it's black and white. I thought they would have some color film at the quality of program that Coppell is, but no, I mean, the ball either goes through the uprights or it doesn't. It either goes in the end zone on a kickoff or it doesn't. And he's a really, really talented kicker, and really excited to have him.
Adam Centers, Coppell High School, Coppell, Texas, kicker. Follow me on Twitter.
Thomas Dillon, Kincaid School, Katy, Texas, cornerback. Follow me on Twitter.
Thomas Dillon is another captain. He was a 3-time state champion. He had 16 career interceptions at his high school, which set a school record. So he'll play corner for us. He's from the Kincaid School in Houston, a good academic school, another strong student.
Cameron Glenn, safety, Stevenson High School. Check out my highlights.
Really excited about Cameron. He was another captain of his team. All in all, we signed 22 captains this year. He was the MVP of his team. He was all-state in 3 different track events. So certainly has a lot of those measurables in terms of speed and explosion that we look for at safety. And we believe he's going to play our whip safety position, which is our high safety. So, Coach Hunter, if you want to come up, and Tyler Henderson.
Tyler Henderson, tailback from Collins Hill High School in Suwanee, Georgia. Very exciting, versatile young man. Great family. Father's a federal agent. Thought I'd have to take a polygraph when I went into the home, but interesting thing about this young man, after he committed after my home visit, before I got to the state line, I had 3 calls from separate coaches who have coached against this young man, telling me what a great kid he was for us. So very excited about him.
My name is Tyler Henderson. I'm number 5. I go to Collins Hill High School. I play running back for Collins Hill. Watch my highlight tape, but don't blink.
All right, so Justin Herron is a big left tackle from the Bullis School, which is just north of Washington, D.C. in Maryland. And when I got hired, I was the last guy to get hired, so I had a big stack of offensive linemen to watch. And his tape jumped out, immediately to me. And then getting to know the kid became even more apparent what a great fit he is for Wake Forest. Bullis School is kind of a unique school. It's a very good academic school. I don't know if this is always a prerequisite you look for in offensive lineman, but he plays the jazz trumpet. I think when you watch the tape, you wouldn't necessarily know that. But Dad played basketball at Villanova. Mom, Bridget, is a professor, an English professor, amongst other things. But just a great family, a good kid. Fought through a snowstorm to go see him, and we're certainly happy we did because we think he's going to be a really good football player for us.
Justin Long, Bullis School, Silver Spring, Maryland. Watch.
Demetrius Kemp from Demopolis, Alabama. One of the first things I did when I got hired was I evaluated the defensive class that was committed. I was real excited about the group. I thought we had a lot of really good kids that fit our system. Demetrius was one of them. He was committed to us at that time, which for everyone knows, that means the recruiting process is just starting, because once they commit is when it really starts to get interesting in recruiting nowadays. We flew down and saw him the first week, went in his home a bunch, got him up here for his official visit. He still wasn't sure. Ultimately, came down to a battle of head coaches. And the head coach of the other school he was looking at was going in. Coach Clausen was going in. We gave Coach Clausen a big pep talk, went in, closed the deal, signed the kid up, real excited about him. He can play every safety position in our defense. We're switching to a 3-safety defense, and we think he could help us at all 3 spots. Real excited about this kid. Think he's going to do a lot of really good things for us here.
Demetrius Kemp, safety slot receiver, Demopolis High School, Alabama. Check my highlights out.
The young man you look up there at is Daquan Lawrence. He's from Western Branch High School in Chesapeake, Virginia. A young man that I'm very excited about, playing cornerback for us. 6 foot tall, 180 pounds, was a track national champion, was a captain on his football team. Someone that when I went down to see him, fell in love with. he was reopened his recruitment once we had a staff change. Coach Elko and I went down there, had a chance to visit with his head coach, had a chance to watch him at a track meet where I think Coach Elko saw his speed and was excited about him. And then more importantly, we got a chance to sit down, do dinner with his mom, him, his little brother, really get a unique bond, I think, with our new coaching staff in there with him immediately, which allowed him to shut the door on some other programs. Came up to Wake Forest on his visit. Our players did an outstanding job of showing him why the Still was the great right family for him to be a part of, and them having a chance to sit down with Coach Clausen and tell him that he wanted to be a Deacon was probably one of the happiest moments that I had, and I know the happiest moment that his mom had, and he's going to be a guy that we're counting on to do great things for us in the future. Again, it's Daquan Lawrence.
Daquan Lawrence, Western Branch High School, Virginia. Let's get it. Go deep.
Cortez Lewis, wide receiver, Demopolis, Alabama. Check out me on my highlight tape, doing work.
Okay, Cortez is one of 3 receivers we signed, teammates with Demetrius Kemp at Demopolis, was a captain, 3-time all-conference player. We also like the versatility he gives us as a kick returner and a punt returner for receivers. The quick guys that are smaller, we like as slots. We prefer to have big, more physical guys as our outside receivers, and Cortez certainly fits the bill in that regard.
Nick Ludicky, Holly Springs High School, Cary, North Carolina, offensive tackle. Check out my highlight tape.
A little bit of a broken record here, but another captain. Or an early commit, had committed to Coach Grobe and his staff. He's a mid-year enrollee. He'll be here. You know, a lot of these players, you ask who's going to play early, who's going to redshirt. Most of them we don't know. Nick is a big frame. He's a little light right now. We certainly anticipate trying to redshirt him, but we think he'll develop into a good offensive tackle. Has a big frame, good feet.
Safety, outside linebacker, Northeast, Greensboro, North Carolina.
Okay, another North Carolina product from just down the road, Kalen McNeil. Again, another captain, the defensive MVP, an academic all-conference guy, was committed to the previous staff and never wavered. I mean, Wake Forest is where he wanted to be from the get-go, and a very rangy, athletic linebacker. Would start out as a rover for us. As he grows and gets bigger, could become, develop into an inside linebacker. Patrick Osterhage, this was a guy at Bowling Green we offered very early in the process, and he honestly got too good for us there. He started getting a couple of ACC offers, a Big Ten offer, and he was uncommitted when we got the job here, so we immediately called him. Again, another captain, 3-year starter. We got good live evaluations on him, and we think he'll end up being a guard for us. Another excellent student, and we're excited he's here. Devin Pike, I think this was a steal. He's rated as one of the top 30, 35 tight ends in the country. We were one of the first people to offer him at Bowling Green. Again, he got probably too good for us there. He had a bunch of Big Tens. He was committed to another ACC school when we got the job here that had a coaching change. Great program, Elder up in Cincinnati, great academics. And we were very excited about him. He's athletic enough to be a mismatch in the pass game, physical enough to be a good run blocker.
Isaiah Robinson, running back, Independence High School, North Carolina.
Isaiah Robinson, anytime you can get a kid out of Charlotte from Independence High School, that's always a good get. That's a great program. And again, we want to do a good job in state recruiting the right people. Another captain, had 4,200 all-purpose yards throughout his career. He was a team MVP, has a chance to be a real workhorse type of back. Again, I think after a while in our strength program, he could become a a 225, 230-pound workhorse. You need those guys when you have the lead in the fourth quarter, and you got to be able to run the football and move the chains. And also has really good hands, can protect, can catch, and excited he's coming. I'll have Coach Cohen introduce Zeke Rodney.
There's three things that we look for in recruits. It starts, number one, with character. This young man was captain not only for his basketball team, but his football team. The second thing is physical prowess. Number one, he's explosive. Number two, he's physical. We knew he had the right guy when I went to watch him play basketball, and he was hitting three-pointers with a different shirt than everyone else because he couldn't fit into the regular jersey. And last but not least would be the ability to dominate. As a sophomore, he was the MVP of the state championship game in South Carolina. As a junior, he was the defensive player of the year for the whole state. And as a senior, he was unblockable. Zeke Rodney.
Isaiah Rodney, South Point High School, Rock Hill, South Carolina. And I play defensive tackle. Go check out my highlight tape.
Zeke was one of those players that we were either going to be playing with them or against them, and I'm glad we don't have to play against them.
EJ Scott, Ellicott City, Maryland, wide receiver. Check me out.
EJ Scott, wide receiver from Maryland. You can let it roll. He's a transfer from the University of Virginia. He graduated. He's enrolled in grad school here. Excited to get him. I think we're a little thin at receiver right now, and he can play immediately. I think he gives us some maturity at the position, and he may allow us to redshirt one of the freshman receivers if they're not ready yet. So he is already on campus working out with our football team.
My name is Rashawn Shaw. I'm a defensive end outside linebacker at Fort Pierce Central High School, and I'm from Florida.
Okay, Rashawn Shaw, another captain, three-time all-conference player, first-team all-state. He's a top 60 prospect in the state of Florida. He's a guy that had multiple offers, and again, we think will be like an open-side defensive end for us. This would give us an edge pass rusher, athletic, good student, and he had early interest in Wake. He was committed to another school where there was a coaching change, and that gave us an opportunity to flip him. Travis Smith.
Travis Smith, Ithaca High School, Ithaca, Michigan. Watch me win.
Travis Smith was 41-0 as a starter. He was Mr. Football in the state of Michigan. Threw for 104 career touchdown passes. Athletic. You watch this play coming up that he makes with his feet, and you think he's a senior playing against the Pee Wee football team here. We will try to coach this. I don't know if we can. Again, Chris Stewart, defensive end from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Another captain, first team all-area, excellent student. He would be our closed defensive end. We play with two different defensive ends. The one is more physical than the other. I think Chris will come here as a defensive end. He's got a great frame, very athletic. He could grow into a tackle, but he'll start out as a defensive end for us.
Malik Terry, center.
Malik Terry,
High School, Miami, Florida.
He was a two-time captain, big center, and also plays point guard on their basketball team, which is a rare combination. I don't think he'll play point guard on our basketball team. He right now is down in Texas. He's on the USA All-Star game against Canada that he's playing this week. You guys love the O-line highlights, don't you? Someone has their hands on the ball. Woo, wow, the O-line. Everyone looks at their food. Cameron Uter.
Cameron Uter, wide receiver, Bates Academy in Atlanta, Georgia.
Come check your boy out. Watch Big Man make plays.
We were stuck 10 hours in an Atlanta snowstorm to see Cameron and still didn't get to see him. Got up the next morning and saw him. Coach Hunter and I, we risked life and limb, and it was worth it. Okay, and this is a two-sport guy, so I think Cameron was okay playing for me. I think he's thrilled to be playing for Coach Walter, so I have to give him a major assist on this one. He's got a 92-mile-per-hour fastball, and he will be a two-sport athlete for us here. And again, he was committed to an SEC school. He had multiple SEC offers, but he's a very good student. And I think the combination of our academics, our baseball coach, and our football program here, we think we got a real steal here, Cameron Uter. This film is you'll ooh and ah on this one. He's on defense here.
Zach Wary, Rogers, Arkansas. Great young man. For you guys, he's a Wake Forest guy. A 4.0 student. He's got a 33 ACT. He wants biochemical, and biochemistry. And he is one of the best, finest young men that you'll ever meet. We had a big competition with this young man. And again, the coach is okay to say who or no. He has some major SEC offers, Big 12 offers. But as we look at it from a defensive standpoint, when Coach Elko got hired and took over as a defense coordinator, we had to go out and just really look at some fine players that could fit what we call the rover position. It's a hybrid between a linebacker and a safety. And when we found this young man in Rogers, Arkansas, we were just like, wow. This is the Wake Forest guy we got to go get. And what I want to do, and I know Coach is going to do it, he's already done it, is thank the donor who gave us the plane to fly out last week to Rogers, Arkansas, because if it was not for that donor, there's no way we would have gotten this young man. That night that we were in the house, the head coach at the University of Arkansas called them and said, "We want you at Arkansas." And after it was all over, he said no. And then the very next day, another Big 12 school, Oklahoma State, called and said, "We want you." And at that time, he had just verbally committed to say yes to be a deacon, and we're excited to have Zach Rogers, Arkansas.
Zach Wary, Rogers High School, Rogers, Arkansas, linebacker. Check out my highlights.
Jabari Williams, Fort Lauderdale High, South Florida, linebacker. Watch me go to work, you feel me?
Jabari had been committed. When the coaching change happened, he decommitted. The Budd family let us borrow their plane, and we immediately flew down to see him. And he basically told me, if Coach Beelan's staying, I'm staying. And he's a mid-year enrollee. I think he has a chance to not only be a great player for us, but a really good leader as well. And he's already on campus, he's working out, and he'll be in this spring. But this was, some of the major gets were just reconfirming some of the commitments that were already here, and Jabari was one of those players.
John Wolford, quarterback from Bishop Kenny High School, Jacksonville, Florida. We're thrilled to have him. He's a two-time captain. He's a 4.0 student. Great fit for Wake Forest. He was recently named to the Parade All-American team, which is a great honor. He was, second on that list, just underneath the kid from Davidson Day. He has 5 all-time state of Florida passing records right now. He passed Tim Tebow's all-time touchdown record. He's thrown for more yards than anybody, career-wise, than anybody in the state of Florida. Great passer, great athlete, great kid. John Wolford, we're happy to have him.
John Wolford, quarterback, Bishop Kenny High School, Jacksonville, Florida. Check me out.
Last one here, Willie Yarberry, defensive lineman from the Richmond Academy down in Augusta, Georgia. He was committed to a Big Ten school. They had some staff changes on defense. We asked him if he'd consider looking at Wake Forest. He's also seeded #1 in the wrestling tournament in the state of Georgia, which we love dual sport guys, 3-sport guys, competitors. Was only able to be here 24 hours and committed. So, big tackles like that are hard to find, and we're excited Willie's coming here. And just not to be remiss, I also want to thank Becky Faircloth, Bill's wife. That was a lot of our recruiting functions too. And Bill would always brag that was his best time ever recruit. And having spent time with her, it's hard to disagree with that. So that is our recruiting class. Again, we team recruit here. Because of the nature of the school, we're always going to try to be inside out, but we'll go anywhere for a great player who's also a good student, that has high character, that fits Wake Forest. If there's any questions you have about the class, I'm more than happy to answer them. I don't know how much time, Stan, we have for Q&A. So at the last Q&A we had, we got our new defense set, and so anything you have, I'm happy to answer about the recruiting process. This is great. We have a group here that doesn't second guess one decision. I love it. Stan, are you like the moderator on this one again, or before I wasn't here? Okay.
I have a question about recruiting. I recently heard David Shaw say that there were only 80 good football players in the United States that could qualify to go to Stanford. That seems to me like a very small pool. Are you facing something like that at Wake Forest?
The question is, David Shaw at Stanford said there was only 80 football players in America who could play and get into Stanford, and is that a similar challenge we have at Wake Forest? To me, there's 2 approaches to things. You can complain about it, or you can embrace it. And I think that is one of our greatest advantages, that when we can find and this will always be a challenge with fans, that you'll see the top 30 players in the state and wonder why we're not recruiting all 30. And again, if you're just a qualifier, it doesn't mean that you can get into Wake Forest. We have higher standards. But I also think that there's a major advantage with that we get capable students, we get accountable young men. And for the right fit, if academics is a factor in the decision, this is one of the greatest places in the country to come. So because of that, our recruiting will always have to be a little bit more spread out. Other like maybe some other schools in the state, we won't just be able to recruit North Carolina or players within a 5-hour radius or a 4-hour radius. We want to do a great job in our backyard for the guys that fit the school. And but when you see our recruiting list, I mean, it might be like this every year. It might be 1 player out of Maryland, 1 out of Ohio, 1 out of Michigan, 2 out of South Carolina. Hopefully it'll always be 5, 6, 7 out of North Carolina. I think in terms of marketing your program and where your fan base is, that is very important. But we'll go after the best players in the state aggressively. If we get them, great. If not, we won't drop the standard just to take an in-state player. You know, we have to keep a standard and one that can allow us to win in the ACC. And if that means we go to Demopolis, Alabama, we'll do that. So does that answer your question? Question? Percentage on redshirting. To be honest with you, I know our recruits better than I know our football team, which is just the way it works. You get the job in December, they go home after finals, they come back in January, we say hello to them, and then we go on the road for 3 weeks. It's hard for me to say that. Until we go through a spring, until we go through a summer camp, you know, I would like to redshirt usually half to 2/3 of the class. I just think one of our advantages at Wake Forest is because guys pick us in part because of strong academics, we won't have a lot of guys leave after 3 years. Now, hopefully we'll have some because that means we're recruiting some great ones. But one of our advantages, hopefully, is that we'll have 22-year-old men playing against 18 and 19-year-old kids. But if a player can help us win next year, it's not fair to the juniors and the seniors to redshirt him so we can be good in 3 years. So our standard, if they're going to play 30 to 40 plays a game and they can help us win football games, we're going to play them. We are not going to play guys on 2 special teams and have them be the 3rd string safety just to get through the end of a game. That player we will redshirt. So we'll have a much better idea on that probably 10 days to 2 weeks before the first game.